Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here the second time, and I have to apologize that my presentation will be in English. Maybe the slides will be translated later, and you will find them in the internet. We'll start with a few words about my organization. It's a network founded in 1992 and a network of about 40 chemical, petrochemical, pharmaceutical companies with the aim to foster process safety, especially process safety. And our major topics this year are scenarios, not the usual scenarios, unusual scenarios. It was an activity triggered more or less by Fukushima, where we decided that we have to think beyond the borders of our thinking, which we have traditionally. We work on process safety indicators, something which has been mentioned by Simon earlier, process safety auditing, process safety competence, aging facilities and safety critical equipment. And we would welcome very much any company from Russia to join our network. How to control process safety risks? We need equipment, that's clear, but we also need safe operations, or you may say a safety management system. I heard this morning that you definitely, also in your area of responsibility, have enough rules. So that's not the problem. You certainly also have enough operating procedures, also not the problem, but compliance everywhere is a problem. Operating discipline everywhere is the problem. The behavior of humans is a problem, and safety culture, which I will focus on during my presentation, is more or less an envelope around that. What we want is compliance, sustainable compliance. That is easily said, but in practice it has some problems, because compliance to operating procedures may lead to additional work in the eyes and the experience of some of the operators. To overcome that view, we need training, we need supervision, and of course we need sanctions. A sustainable compliance, compliance beyond the situations in which a supervisor is present, can only be achieved if everyone understands why shortcuts may be dangerous. So everyone needs sufficient competence, sufficient knowledge of the processes to be aware of the more or less hidden risks. And we need a very, very clear message by all management levels that safety has the highest priority. This is one of the most important parts of safety culture. The problem in process safety, especially in process safety, and Simon pointed that out in the interview, is that we are talking here about incidents with a very low probability, but with very high consequences. And we have to realize that in many cases sheer luck is the last barrier, which may fail sometimes. We need compliance, and compliance is based on process safety culture. And this clearly has to start from the top. That was also a remark which was made in the discussion after the interview. We need clear commitment from senior management. I would say the basics would be a high-level policy statement, together with other statements on profitability and so on. But much more important is that safety also has priority when it comes to rubles, euros, dollars. There are talks about investments, then top management has to demonstrate that they give safety priority also when it boils down to money. Top management has to respond quickly to safety issues and concerns, not to delay anything. They should have a continuous monitoring of performance, probably by a standard agenda point in board meetings or similar things. And if they visit sites, and they should do that as often as possible, they should behave as a role model. To achieve that, we need an understanding of process safety issues first for the CEOs, the senior managers. Unfortunately, an increasing number of senior managers, of CEOs, do not have the background as you, Simon. They never have worked in the field. They may have a legal or an economics background. If they had been exposed to production, it was more or less in a helicopter flying over the sites and not really working there. So we cannot assume that they have the feeling of risk which people like Simon have. We may shock them by demonstrating the consequences of a Deepwater Horizon or a Texas City refinery explosion, but if you are not, if you don't have that background information, that experience, this shock will fade away as the shock seeing a major traffic accident fades away when you drive by, and after at least 5 or 10 minutes you go to maximum speed again. You may use the threat of criminal litigation, but this also will not change the culture on a long term. Therefore, the European Process Safety Center, together with the European Federation of Chemical Engineers, look for a new way to convince especially non-technical senior management about process safety issues. We produced a DVD package with image film, a short video, and a template for a PowerPoint presentation. This package should be a tool for the senior process safety person in the company if he has the chance to present on board level or on the level of senior management. We are not so optimistic to believe that process safety will got a very long time in those meetings, but so we designed it for a slot of maybe 30 or 60 minutes. The video is an opener, not more and less, only 7 minutes, and it links process safety to flying as an activity with these target group knows and which has a positive connotation to them. And the video is nothing without a presentation of the top process safety person afterwards, where the problems of the specific problems of the company have to be illustrated in detail. We also have to change the mindset of middle management, of the supervisors. Of course, they also have to demonstrate clear commitment. That's the same as with the top management level. But this level of management is frequently confronted with breaching of procedures, with bending of procedures. And they need to handle this. They have to analyze critically any of those instances. Even if nothing serious has happened, or even if by breaching or bending procedure maybe the production has been saved. They have to encourage reporting of deviations, of near misses. What the company needs is what we call a no-blame culture. Of course, you need sanctions if someone violates procedures, but you also have to encourage reporting, which is in practice very difficult. And the managers and supervisors have to find out what the real reason of deviations has been. Was it just negligence, or was it an inadequate procedure, which then has to be corrected? That's one of the clear and visible actions afterwards, maybe correct the procedures or a disciplinary action. And the last point, as many abnormal situations as possible should be covered by procedures too. I think it's clear that for startup, shutdown, or maintenance situations, you may have procedures not completely covering everything, but there certainly is room for improvement and also for emergencies. Let me give you a small case study on process safety culture. This is a picture from the Buncefield explosion and fire, exactly from 3 minutes before the Buncefield explosion and fire. And you see on the right-hand side the white mist. These are gasoline vapors. Gasoline vapors as a consequence of the massive overfilling of one tank. And you certainly have seen the pictures of the results, this huge fire which lasted, I think, 5 days. What went wrong? A level control instrumentation failed during the filling process, during the filling of a gasoline storage tank via a pipeline. The operators, it was night shift, the operators had to control 4 filling operations simultaneously. There was only one screen, and the screen had windows, and the critical operation which failed was on the last window. And the overfill protection was not in operating mode. None of these failures, and now process safety culture comes in, none of these failures had been new. The problems with the level control instruments had been tolerated since months. Some operators even brought a cooking timer from home as an independent control for filling operations. The operator's capacity certainly had been overloaded by the inadequate instrumentation system that was known but ignored, and the overfill protection device had maintenance and was not checked after maintenance. That's, as I said, is process safety culture. Management systems had been in place but not fully complied with. Management and operators accepted serious deviations for a long period. And consequently, management and not the operators had been held legally responsible for the incident. A stable process safety culture would certainly have prevented these failures of the safety management system. You can also say that an effective safety management system would be an indicator for good safety culture. This is more or less a chicken and egg problem. To conclude, process safety culture can drive accident rates further down. The first impulse for better safety, both occupational safety and process safety, had been improved hardware. Then we had better safety management systems. We had some much more dealt with human factors, and now culture may be the next step. And what I try to give you as a message, safety culture is not rocket science. It's common sense. You don't need new systems. You rather need a change in thinking, a change in attitudes, a change in behavior. The prerequisite is the clear commitment of all management levels, and this is certainly more difficult in process safety as we have those low probability events. And process safety performance indicators, including all loss of containment events, but going beyond that, had been developed recently in the United States and in Europe, and they